Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here. Well, world domination begins with confiscation of your guns, of your firearms, of your private property, and your Second Amendment right. Well, this is exactly what the United Nations is attempting to do. In round one, in their targeted attacks against the American people, and not just us in America, we are the highest target because of the Second Amendment, but all across the globe. But in round one of their attack, they created a website. As you can see on the screen, this is the Disarmament website put together by the United Nations, a group of unelected bureaucratic officials making their own rules and regulations. That was round one. Also in round one, they started hiring a peace force, also known as the Blue Hats. If you've watched my channel for some time, then you know exactly who I'm speaking about. But these Blue Hats, some of them were hired specifically for disarmament and recruitment. What does that mean? Well, exactly what's in the terminology: to disarm people, to take away the guns whenever they feel the need to do so. So they already have the armed force to do that. Well, step two has been ignited, or round two, and that came in the form of, well, about a month ago, they held a conference. This conference was called International Action Network on Small Arms, IANSA. Now, this entire conference was all about one thing: disarmament, taking arms from the American people. It was their goal to bring attention to small arm weapons and to ignite a new attack on the Americans' use of small arms, to make gun control a priority for the United Nations. Now, we know that also in their targeted agenda, it's also part of the 17 sustainable goals. On goal 16 in the sustainable development, it reads peace, justice, and strong institutions. Well, 16.1 gives us a little bit more insight to how they plan on accomplishing that. And that is this: disarmament and arms regulations contribute to reducing deaths and armed violences by prohibiting and restricting the use of certain types of weapons and by establishing effective control of arms and ammunition. In other words, they want to disarm everyone in order to, quote, usher in peace. But as the Bible says, they're not going to usher in anything but a false peace. He says many in the latter days will call peace and security, but peace and security are far from them. This is exactly what we see at the United Nations. Well, in addition to round two, that wasn't the only blow that they gave. They also gave this blow, and it comes in the form of a report. Now, this report was published in 2018, and it's called Securing Our Common Future, an Agenda for Disarmament. You can see the table of contents here. They have a need for disarmament, how we are already in a Cold War, disarmament to save humanity, save lives, and future generations, all a part of the agenda. But this entire report solely focuses on disarming the world of not only nuclear weapons, but of small arms, illicit trade of small arms. But let me show you first on page 41 of the document. Here's one of the most shocking points in this whole report. There is a clear need for the UN to pursue a new model for sustained and coherent funding for international assistance for the key word here is control of small arms and light weapons. They want to control. The United Nations wants to implement new ideas to get rid of our guns and to control our guns, specifically stated here. It goes on, to meet this need, the Secretary General will establish a multi-partner trust facility through the Peace Building Fund. Key word. They're going to take money from you and use it to disarm the world. A peace building fund to provide a more sustainable solution with a strong developmental focus. The country level approaches will be developed in collaboration with the affected states and with the support of the United Nations country teams. Interesting. So in other words, let's develop a fund, let's develop a new model in order to disarm the people, in order to disarm America. Here's one thing we must not forget also. The United Nations already has their tentacles in pretty much every state in the United States of America. I've said this multiple times. Model UN. If you send your kids to a local school or a charter school, a lot of the times they have this group, a club, known as Model UN. Please don't send your kids there. It's brainwashing your kids into thinking we're all just going to live in a happy kumbaya state at some point under the UN. It's a program of complete propaganda. They're already in there. Not only that, but United Nations has branches and divisions pretty much in every state, multiple divisions within each state and in your colleges. But let's not forget the United Nations also has their vehicles all throughout. Check out this report on dailymail.co.uk. What are military United Nations trucks doing in Virginia? Bemused motorists spot while combat vehicles are on the interstate, as seen in these pictures here. These pictures come from the United States of America. On our soil, you have UN vehicles. What was their reasoning for these UN vehicles on U.S. soil? Well, according to them, they were for use outside of the U.S., but being created inside the U.S. Whether or not that is actually the case and whether or not that is actually what is being done with these United Nations vehicles, well, time will tell. But either way, they already have the blue hat force with Americans and Chinese and Russians alike hired within this, quote, false peacekeeping force. Now, let me share with you a final thought here. What I want to share is that, well, governments have killed more people. This is why than even war, at least according to some statistics that I'm going to show you. Let me just take you straight to the source. This is a book that was put out by R.J. Rummel. Now, the book is called Death by Government. And in this book, he issued some very alarming facts. The first one being this. And I quote, 4 times the number of people were murdered by their government than killed in warfare. Another interesting fact, and he actually lists a number here. He says from the 1900s till about the 1987s, over 212 million people were killed by their government, which he calls democide, death by government. He goes on to include these statistics: 78 million killed by communist China, 62 by Soviet communists, 21 million by Nazis, 10 million by Chinese nationalists, and 6 million by Japanese militarists. Those just give you an idea of the number and amount of people that have been killed by government. This is why I'm a staunch supporter in my Second Amendment right. When you take away the guns, the bad people still get the guns. You don't think criminals now illegally obtain these guns? A lot of them are not allowed to purchase a firearm because of some history that they have, because of some jail history or some kind of disorderly conduct or whatever it may be. They're not allowed to purchase a gun. Or they're underage and they come across a gun through, well, the black market. These things will continue to happen. The unarmed ones then become those who follow the rules. The rule followers, that's you and me. So that's why I'm a big supporter in the Second Amendment. You disarm the people while you have an open rule for a dictator to come in and rule over you. Let's stick with the Second Amendment right and stand against the United Nations and any rules that they try to push that stand against our Second Amendment right. Well, thanks again for tuning in. If you like what you heard, subscribe to the channel, share it on all your social media outlet, and give me a big thumbs up. Well, thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.